Hi there, welcome to the CyberHut TV vendor introduction series. My name is Simon Moffat, founder and analyst at the CyberHut. And now vendor introduction series, I get to interview super smart CEOs and founders of a whole host of different identity security companies all around the globe, looking to solve some of today's toughest problems. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have Tina from Badge Inc. with me today. Tina, thank you for taking some time out.
So great to be here, Simon.
Not at all. I get the easy job of asking a couple of questions, so I appreciate how difficult it is to run some of these complex startups, solving some of the urgent problems we now face. And the way these interviews work, for those who've not seen an episode before, is I essentially get to ask our esteemed guest three very important questions to understand a little bit more about the mission and vision of that organization. And I always start off with the same question, ultimately, this time to Tina, which is, what is the problem that Badge Inc. are looking to solve?
Badge has solved the foundational, fundamental problem that has plagued the internet since its inception: how to prove you are who you say you are in a digital environment. I mean, how do we establish who you are anywhere, on any application, in any ecosystem, securely and in a privacy-preserving way? Each of us, Simon, has over 100 digital identities, right? Every time we log into our bank, our healthcare, our online merchants, and authentication to each of these follows that flow. You have to create a password, security verification questions, PIN codes, and all that authentication today requires vulnerable secret storage of identity credentials. And biometrics really help with user convenience. We've seen them become pervasive in retail, banking, healthcare, airports, but they make this vulnerable secret storage problem worse. And the reason is that, biometrics stored in central databases are at a high risk. And I've experienced this personally. My biometrics were stored in the Office of Personnel Management, OPM database, and it was breached. So my biometrics were compromised and they can't be reset like a password. And so that was, a big challenge with centrally stored biometrics. The alternative, of course, to storing them centrally has been to store them on the device, like Face ID. But this has limitations too. If you lose or break your iPhone, or if you're on another device, you can't use your face to prove it's Simon. You have to fall back to those password security questions, that same vulnerable data stored that hackers are, better at remembering than we are, and has led to major breaches, phishing, ransomware, like the MGM casino hack. And so the problem we're solving at Badge is the fundamental identity problem of the internet. How to prove you are who you say you are without the huge vulnerability of stored secrets, whether those are biometrics, passwords, or other identity credentials in PII. These stored secrets plague our data security and privacy, and Badge has solved this fundamental problem.
Wow, that's a big problem to fix, isn't it? And it's something where we think authentication's done, don't we? We started off with passwords, which everybody hates. They hate the use of them. Developers hate storing them, and then we had sort of basic MFA, which never really solved the problem. Not every user would enroll properly. Usability was often an issue. And then, as you say, some of the then fundamental ways of how those mechanisms were designed, leveraging shared secrets or making a very difficult enrollment process. So the usability was never great as well. But that secret aspect of that, having a shared secret in two places, the bad guys, they will figure that out. They will find out what that authentication mechanism is reliant upon. Then you sort of just left shift the problem, don't we, from passwords to the secret, whether the secret was stored or how it was generated or whatever. And it is a little bit of a constant, I guess it's a constant battle, isn't it, between developing something secure and the bad guys, as you say, catching up and doing so. But you mentioned some interesting things there, things like secretless and not having that secret, which I think is a really big fundamental difference, isn't it? And I think that's it sounds like that to me is a real differentiator to how you guys are solving this. But I guess Why is this becoming a problem today? Is it simply we are doing more online? Obviously, we talk about digital transformation. We talk about doing financial services online and transactions. We talk about even in the workforce setting, remote working and all of that sort of cross business boundary stuff where you are having to sort of share data and authenticate across locations. Is it simply a volume problem, or is it the fact the bad guys are getting better and we need to improve the security as well?
It's both, Simon. This foundational problem of proving you are who you say you are, it's actually been a problem since the start of the internet. What's new is that it's reached a climax. The stolen identity credentials are the number one cause of data breaches, and this is a 71% year-over-year increase. The frequency and scale of data breaches have grown significantly, with hackers targeting sensitive biometric databases, stored credentials, and especially privileged access credentials. And these breaches can lead to identity theft, fraud, and other long-term consequences. And the other issue is that there are large, growing populations that are unserved by existing technologies. Everyone else today stores credentials, and they store the secrets needed to prove you are who you say you are. And in addition to the security vulnerability, that stored credential model fundamentally doesn't work for major user groups that are left without secure authentication as a result. So, for example, bank tellers need to authenticate to different devices in a bank branch and across branches, so they can't be bound to a device. Storing biometrics or credentials on a specific device doesn't work. They also can't have a phone for a 2FA push for security restrictions on devices. So how can they authenticate? The same goes for pharmacy workers, doctors, manufacturing floor workers, logistics providers, call center workers, frontline workers. They all need to securely authenticate across devices, shared devices, roaming devices. And Simon, the same goes for consumers. We move across phones, laptops, in-store kiosks, drive-thrus. How can users securely authenticate across any device without having a central database or other, identity credentials stored centrally? And so that's really, why we're seeing this rise in data breaches. And the central storage of biometric data also raises concerns about mass surveillance and the potential misuse of sensitive personal information. All of these contribute to why this is a significant problem now.
It sounds like, again, it's like a perfect storm, isn't it? You have not only the usage has increased, so we have more identities, more interactions, more sort of types of interactions. You mentioned sort of frontline workers and sort of the workforce ecosystem, but as you said, there's also the B2C part of the equation, and of course that then, as you mentioned, introduces the privacy sort of angle in there as well. So it's like a perfect storm of volume, complexity, and that aspect around the bad guys. That they will always find a way in credentials or leaked credentials, stolen credentials, breached credentials. It seems a very easy target to me if I was a red team. I've long time since I've done my hacking exams, but it seems to me it's an easy thing, isn't it? Go for that credential, and then from that you can obviously have the downstream access ultimately. So there's perfect storm. I certainly agree, and it can empathise and feel the power of the impact of that, whether it's as a consumer or as a sort of employee angle there as well. So that then sort of leads me into that sort of third part, really, and that's how are you guys solving this? And what is this secret sauce? You mentioned a little bit around sort of secretless there, so I'm intrigued a little bit as to how that figures into the equation. But why are you best placed to try and tackle some of these problems?
It's because Badge has the unique technology innovation that's core to solving this problem. After the OPM breach of my biometric data, I teamed up with some other PhDs from MIT, and we solved a 20-year problem in cryptography to address vulnerable stored credentials. Badge figured out how to turn you into your own key without storing any secrets. And our patented technology eliminates the need to store any secrets. Badge's device independence also allows users to enroll once and seamlessly authenticate across devices without storing secrets, including biometrics. So that fundamentally changes the paradigm from trying to store secrets more securely, which never worked, to never storing the secrets in the first place. And that solves this fundamental problem of the internet. Our device independence also allows us to serve users in all of those use cases we discussed: banking, healthcare, logistics, frontline workers, and of course, consumers who move across devices and need privacy. Badge emerged from stealth mode just last year and has received tremendous pull, with top industry players announcing partnerships with Badge, such as Cisco, CyberArk, Okta, Radiant Logic, Thales, Ping, and others. And that really speaks to Badge's transformational impact on the business world. And industry notes like you have really taken note. We're on a journey to eliminate the vulnerability of stored credentials and biometrics. So we're best placed to solve this problem because our team, it's an elite group of cybersecurity entrepreneurs from MIT, DARPA, Raytheon, and Google, and our technology, this disruptive, zero-knowledge biometrics that ensures privacy without storing secrets, and timing. Badge addresses the root cause of 70% of data breaches by eliminating credential storage. And that's why Badge is the foundation for the identity backplane of the internet, because we don't store user PII and we enable every person to have a secure, durable identity that lives as long as they do.
Wow, that's a pitch, isn't it? There's some super stuff in there. I think authentication has become this pinch point, hasn't it, for all of our interactions, be it on this Riverside recording now, online, in transactions, but underneath that, of course, you mentioned some really interesting things there around lots of innovation around trying to protect keys and secrets, but ultimately, if you remove that entirely, you remove that problem is a sort of risk treatment option, that disappears. So you don't have to then solve that; it just disappears entirely. So I think that is really powerful. But also things like being deviceless really generates some pretty smart byproducts around reset revocation. You always, at some point, either buy a new device, you lose your mobile or whatever it could be, you have to re-enroll, even as an employee or even as a consumer. It's time consuming, it's difficult, it really interferes with your user experience. So I really see some real benefits. And the other one I noted down there as well is, if you don't need to store the secret, you then remove all of the dependencies around trusted execution environments, secure enclaves, all of that sort of stuff. That disappears as well. So you start to potentially solve some interesting or different use cases, maybe in the sort of NHI world as well. So it's fascinating stuff. I think authentication it's never dull. It's never finished, is it? It's really constantly innovating in innovation around authentication, I should say. I think it's never solved, but I'm hoping with things like passwordless and then things like secretless, we can hopefully get to a point where we can both have security and usability and privacy preservation for both staff and hopefully consumers as well. So it sounds like you guys are on a fabulous journey, have some real benefits there. So thank you for taking some time out, Tina. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Simon.